get it. Why can't you just?
Well, in my case, the VA is my primary healthcare provider.
Well,
and so I just went and got it scheduled there.
But you can go anywhere to get it. You don't have to
Yeah.
for it. So.
Well, they had it available for me in LA, but it's the same.
In my case,
the drive.
VA is my primary healthcare provider.
The facility.
So I just went and got it scheduled there.
But you can go anywhere to get it. You don't have to.
Yeah. The only place they have.
You can get it anywhere.
Yeah.
The vaccine was very strange. With the VA, it was only available in Los Angeles for 2 or 3 months. And the other clinics had no information at all about when they might get vaccinated.
You can get it anywhere.
Hey, Brian, why don't you mute?
Yeah. Hold on.
Rod. I think it's Rod.
No, I'm setting up the live stream right now. That's why.
Oh, okay.
I can only click things so quick. Okay.
Well, Doc, why don't you play some more piano?
Well, I was gonna do something else. I had a general comment to make. I've heard a lot of complaints about sloppy amateur operation at the morning net and so forth. I've heard the complaints several times. I won't say a lot, but several times that complaining about the sloppy operation of the net by someone who knows a lot about emergency communications. But I also have been involved with emergency communications for at least 50 years, and so I wanted to say that using protocol, very rigid protocol, and getting it over with quickly, and everybody using phonetics is really not the only thing that makes the net valuable, even for emergency communications, because the primary rule of emergency communications is that the communications that work in an emergency are the same ones that are used every day. And so if there's a net that operates every day, no matter whether they tell jokes or have fun or whatever, everybody knows that their rig turns on, the power supply works, the radio seems to be working, you get signal reports. Anyhow, if the net is operating, when an emergency occurs, those same people, their equipment will be operating and they'll be there. And all they have to do at that point is be just a little more rigid about their communication protocol. Maybe if that's necessary, it may not even be necessary. And so even for emergency communications, the ham nets that operate informally and have fun are perfect practice for emergency communication. And so the net doesn't have to operate every day as if it's operating in an emergency in order for it to have value. In my view, having been involved with these communications since before there was a NIMS program. In fact, the first one I took was a SEMS program, the State Emergency Management System, which was the predecessor for the NIMS program, and even before that was developed by the fire chiefs here in Southern California when they had to operate interagency radio networks during large-scale fires and so forth. So I've been through those programs several times, and I've operated in emergencies, and in my view, I think that the net operating the way it does is just great, and does not have to be. It doesn't have to be no fun. It doesn't have to operate just the way one person thinks it should operate in order for it to be valuable. So I'd say if we just keep doing what we're doing, that's really great, and we don't need to insist that everybody use phonetics every time. Although it does help me because I'm deaf, and it helps need to get the call sign the first few times if I hear it in phonetics. So that's just my opinion. I thought I'd say it.
Well, nobody pays attention to that person's opinion anyway, Doc.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that, but I just wanted to say it out.
It's about as much value as his membership fees, which we'd never get.
Hello, Rod is here. Oh my goodness, I have live video. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Rod, how you doing?
I am doing great. And hello, Garrett. I think I sensed that you were out there.
It's just the one with the glasses and the hair. I haven't seen Garrett in years now.
Yeah, well, he looks just like his avatar.
Let me see if I can move this thing somewhere else. You caught me in the middle of dinner. Sorry.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'm in the middle of dinner too. I'm having my second Pepsi so that I'm going to be wired for the meeting tonight.
Pepsi, Breakfast of Champions, right? Hi, everybody.
I hope you are proud enough to
Hey,
share.
Garrett.
All right, we're getting other check-ins. I'm going to see a lot of familiar faces here. I am really looking forward to this. And wish I could spend more time around Santa Barbara. This COVID thing kind of put a kibosh on things in 2020, didn't it?
20 and so far 2020 version 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be like what, March 400th by now.
Well, I'm an old geezer, so I got my shots, and I'm feeling almost normal, although it could be an illusion. But oh well.
Well, you know, we just celebrated the first anniversary of 15 days to flatten the curve.
Yeah.
And we're about to celebrate our 1-year anniversary for the BoardNet here. You're all welcome to join in.
For the what?
The BoardNet, for those who refuse to be bored.
Oh, okay.
Is that like Elon Musk, boring company?
Among others.
Yeah, I wonder whatever happened to his boring company. I haven't heard anything about that in a while.
He's undermining Las Vegas, so if you see casinos start to collapse, you'll know why.
I know he's probably building the tunnel between Area 51 and Area 52.
Yeah, well, he's going to be digging under LA too. He's got some things going on there. People want him to dig a tunnel between LA and Vegas. That would be fun. And also from LA to San Francisco. So I'm sure that's on the drawing board. Might take a while.
Well, if he wants to do one from LA to San Francisco, that would maybe we wouldn't have to widen the freeway here.
He could just go right up the San Andreas Fault. That'd be easy digging.
Yeah, that's a thought.
Yeah, there's already some loose soil there.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to have things making noises in the background. I don't know what I can do about that.
We're packing a crowd in here tonight, Rod.
Well, I hope so. Let's see. I'm going to go full screen so I can see what's going on. I've got my light's a little bit too bright here. Let me. Hello, Roland. It's Rod.
Hey, Rod, how you doing?
That's good. I'm on Zoom here. Let me mute a little bit.
Can you, can you forward the phone number and the password? That'd be great.
Oh, I already did that, but I'll do it again. Stand by.
Through what, email or text?
Well, we'll get started here in a couple more minutes. I lost my flag background. Fired up my Zoom, Rod, and all my carefully curated backgrounds were gone. You're muted, Rod.
There we go. I'm on the phone with Roland. I've got to try to get these guys logged in. So I know you're going to conduct a part of a business meeting starting at 7:30, and we're going to come on about 7:40. We can give a little bit of an intro for the video so they realize what that's about. Either you can do that or I can do that. I'm thinking not more than about 30 seconds, just saying. We created this for QSO today, and the video is relevant to this presentation, and then we'll have Q&A after. That's all we have to say, really. So, so what are your thoughts for the agenda tonight?
Well, just the normal stuff that we do. The, you know, we'll don't really have any announcements. We don't have any activities going on. So we'll do the just the pledge and introduce everybody who's participating tonight. And then you can give a little introduction, and then I will start I've got the video queued up here, and I will start it. And we'll let it go.
Okay. Yeah.
32
minutes of video, and then it comes up with the Q&A slide, and so then maybe we can.
God damn it! Leave it there so I can read it long enough to read it.
We'll see how it goes.
I have some good news about the Pledge of Allegiance, and that is, I didn't realize it, but the law passed back in 2006 or 7 that says veterans can give a hand salute even in civilian clothes. Don't have to be in uniform.
I'll be back in a minute. I've got to get my guys organized on the.
Damn it! God damn it! There's no snow. There is.
Powering off.
So we can give a hand salute, and also I don't know whether, and I don't think
Lee and I have been doing it for years.
Clothes, I do not believe you have to be wearing a hat in order to render a hand salute during the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't think so. That was a little bit unclear in the law, but anyhow, just thought I'd mention it because I've really been missing putting, you know, I put my hand over my heart and all that stuff, but it didn't feel the same as well.
I have a hand salute I use, Doc, but it's not for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
Dirty guy.
All right, let's see. Let me admit one more person here.
Hello, Gerald.
See if we got any more. Yeah, we got quite a few here. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. It's 7:32. We'll try and keep things on time tonight since we got a good crowd already, about double or more from last month. So it must be the content. Welcome everybody to yet another Zoom meeting. I hope everybody's getting their shots if they're so inclined and getting on the list. And one of these days, who knows, maybe this summer or fall, we'll be able to have a real meeting in a room and everything. So the
changes were made. I normally come in through the. That wasn't there today.
Somebody's talking here. Let's see.
So damn it, I tried to come in.
Okay. One of them. All right, let's, you know what, I lost my flag here, so we're gonna have to do the Pledge of Allegiance to the fountains at the building is in Las Vegas there. So I fired up Zoom, I carefully curated backgrounds that disappeared, so I'll look for them and get them back. Anyway, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Salute, Doc. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Okay, so we have quite a few people here tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 20, well, 22 now. And so what we'll do is, because everybody's grouping looks different, I'm going to start, and I'll start with what mine looks like, and we'll get introductions from everybody because there's some new people that we don't know. And so we'll start up, what's my upper left corner, Jim KH6HTV.
Okay, I'm Jim, KH6HTV, Boulder, Colorado. And the KH6 call is from Hawaii because I used to be a snowbird living out in there every winter. And I'll be part of the program tonight. And this is the call sign for our digital high definition amateur television repeater here in Boulder.
Digital high definition. All right, I want to hear about this.
Okay, back to net control.
Okay. Well, and on mine, I'm next here. I'm Brian, K6BPM, and I'm your operator here for this evening. And let's see, next we got Les up here in the middle, Les's iPad.
This is W6CGE, and here on halfway up to Mesa in Santa Barbara. And back to you guys.
Okay, Les, Stuart. Stuart.
Yeah, good evening all. KG6BOV. South Oxnard. Been having good weather and everyone's getting their shots. Back to net.
And I think our sole member with 2 shots under his belt, Doc.
Whiskey 6 Echo Whiskey. My name is Doc. I'm in Santa Barbara, and I've only been a member of the group for 2 or 3 years, so I'm like an infant in this group. And I'm glad I'm here.
Dorothy.
I am Dorothy Oxner, Kilo 6 Delta Sierra Oscar to be proper. And I've been around for about 7 years, and I've had my second shot.
Oh, okay.
Back to you, Brian.
All right, let's see, Les, CGE Les, or excuse me, CKG Les.
Well, good evening, everyone. KN6CKG down here in Camarillo. First time on Zoom. I'm using the web version of it. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay.
Yep. And Mike, or no, excuse me, I'm sorry, KA6GSU Rod.
Okay, I'm Rod, KA6GSU. I live about 5 or 6 miles directly north of Stewart, North Oxnard. And I've been associated with the club since the early 70s. Back to net control.
Okay, Rod, let's see, Steve Nelson.
Where's Steve Nelson?
He's here. Hello, this is Stephen, KD6 of EEX in Solvang, with the reason why I've been away for a long time, sitting in my lap. His name is Max.
Hi, Max.
Hey. Get him a
Does
ticket.
Max have his license yet?
Almost.
Well, he's already, that was his call sign right there, wasn't it? Baba,
Yeah.
Baba.
Yeah, he's getting there. Mama's licensed. And I have my general, so. Anywho, no traffic. So back to you, Brian.
Okay, let's see. Garrett, I haven't said AG6RQ in a long time.
Yeah, I used to get there on weekends, but with this whole pandemic thing, it just hasn't really worked out. I'm Garrett, AG6RQ. Used to be in the Santa Barbara area. These days, I'm in San Mateo.
Well, at least you're here now. Okay, let's see. Ron Gibbons.
Yeah, it's Ron Gibbons, KN6KKD out here in Colita, Nolita, depending how you call it, Rancho Santa Barbara, right across the road from Dorothy. I'm a relatively new member. I guess I've been here, 3-4 months into the club, learning a lot and been doing a lot of talking with Dave down south, and very glad to be here.
And your second shot.
Oh yeah, and I had my second shot too.
Oh, good. Now we got a few of them then. Okay.
It's
Excellent.
good to see you, Ron.
Thank you, Dorothy. Back to you, Brian.
Okay, John, W6JPG.
John, W6JPG down in Ventura. Got my second shot this week also.
Oh, a lot more than I thought. DXW, Joe.
Good evening. I'm Joe, and my affiliation with SBARC goes back to Field Day 1950.
Wow.
And I've had my second shot. Back to that.
And Rod KMO.
All right, that would be me. I am so excited to see all you guys on Zoom here. It's been a long time, and you're all looking great. I'm trying to get my buddy Roland in. I think he's connected, but he's waiting for the host to let him in. So Brian, if you can.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Got.
And then we have one more co-presenter, Mike. We're trying to get him on the phone. I don't know why he isn't here yet, but we'll get him in too. We don't need those guys around till the Q&A because we're going to do a video before that. But it is terrific to be here electronically in Santa Barbara, and I want to get back again as soon as I can.
I think he's connected, but he's waiting for the host to let him in. So Brian, if you
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've got some echo here. Back to you, Brian. This is Rod WB9KMO in
we're trying to get
Arizona.
Why he isn't here yet, so we'll get him into
Okay, Larry.
the Q&A because we're going to do a video before that. But it's terrific to be here electronically in Santa Barbara, and I want to get back again as soon as I can.
Somebody's got their microphone on.
I think you might want to mute Daryl here.
Back to you, Brian. WB9KMO in Arizona.
Oh, they got quite a delay.
Okay.
Too.
Wow. Yeah.
Larry?
Okay, this is Larry, WA6MVJ. I got my second shot 2.5 weeks ago, and my wife, KK6VIG, is getting her second shot next Wednesday. So we're in beautiful downtown Nolita, the intersection of 154 and 192. Back to you, Brian.
Need to mute him.
Okay.
Wow.
As the audio from the YouTube play, that's playing in at a different time than the audio here, and it's so whoever has YouTube playing, please mute your mic or turn it off.
WA6MVJ. I got my 2.5 weeks ago, and my wife.
I'm trying to find who it is here.
Her second shot.
It's Daryl.
We're in beautiful downtown Nolita, the intersection.
There you go.
All right. Okay, let's see. Where are we? All right. Daryl.
Of course.
He's listening later.
Daryl.
Then the audio here, and it's so YouTube playing, please.
Daryl, it's your turn. Okay, that's Daryl there. Frank Crow.
That would be me. WB6UNH member for the last, I don't know, 40 years or so.
and normally in Carpinteria, currently about 600 miles away in Northern California. Whoops. Yeah, we're having troubles here. Okay, 600 miles away, Northern California, and I have had my second shot about a week or two ago also. Back to
good. All right. Ken, KA6KEN. Ken?
There we go. Sorry, guys. Got a brand new computer here. I'm goofing with it. Ken, KA6KEN. I'm down in Winchester Canyon, and it's 56 degrees.
No, wrong net, Ken.
I couldn't think of anything else to say, so that's my generic.
Okay, Jim, JFE.
I'm good.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Ken, KA6KEN.
And get that on again.
Yeah. Daryl, don't turn on your microphone. You're so far behind everybody, it's causing a big disruption. So when you hear this in 5 minutes, please don't turn your microphone on. Jim, W6JFE. Okay, Dave, AI6VX.
Hitting Brian in the net. Whiskey 6 Juliet Foxtrot Echo.
Okay, Jim, JFE.
Yeah, up right in the net.
Juliet
Foxtrot Echo. Listening from the bench, and looking forward to the presentation. Good to see you, Rod and Frank and everybody. And I got my first shot today. Back to net.
Good. Okay, Jim. Dave, AI6VX.
AI6VX, Dave in Ventura. Practically, well, closer to Camarillo on that side of Ventura.
And Dennis, OBB.
Which one did you call, Brian? You?
You, Dennis, OBB.
Oh, okay, sorry. I had a little QRM in the back. I got to call him on the phone. That's crazy. Good evening, everybody. Brian and the Zoom team. This is Dennis, WB6OBB, here on the Mesa, Santa Barbara. And it's good to hear everybody. I hadn't heard Ron and quite a few other ones for a while. I've been associated with the club since about 1970 and run the Cuckoo Net from 83 to now. And with help now, of course, it makes it nice. Anyway, back to you, Brian, and good evening to everyone. Brian, you?
Okay, let's see.
Okay, sorry.
Next is Roland, KC6JPG.
Well, good evening, everyone, and this is Roland, KC6JPG, representing the Amateur Television Network. We are very looking forward to giving you our presentation. We did have a, well, you probably heard about the QSO Today situation, but we did have a very successful presentation over there. And glad to meet you all. And I can tell who's ready for ATV, and definitely who doesn't have their video on is definitely not ready for ATV. I'm proud of you guys. I love it. So, and that's what it's all about. Hams like to be seen and heard. Back to you, KC6JPG.
All right, nice to meet you, Roland. Let's see. Well, there's no name here. WA6ATN, Santiago Peak. Is that a person or a?
You're actually seeing our repeater output, so you'll be able to see live ATV tonight.
Okay, all right. Oh, cool, okay. And then I think the last one is Mike, KC6CBB.
CBB, yes, down here in Channel Islands Harbor. Hi there, guys, and a little difficulty getting to you, but I'm here, KC6CBB. Have a good day.
All right. Is there anybody I didn't call? I think I got everybody. Okay, let's see. Well, let's, I don't think Rod Fritz WB9KMO needs an introduction, but Just in case some of you haven't met Rod, Rod was a fixture in the club here locally in Santa Barbara for a long, long time. And if you ever saw what kind of car was that, Rod? That little minivan that you had with the cameras all around the outside driving around? And
it's a silver 1999 Town and Country. I still have it. 250,000 miles on it. It's my favorite ham radio vehicle.
Okay, let's see. Well, I don't think
poor Daryl, I think he's on a dial-up modem or something. He's about 60 seconds or longer behind us.
Picture in the club here locally.
Audio on Zoom doesn't work, so he's doing audio on YouTube and video on Zoom.
Yeah. Okay, well.
Hey, Brian, I called him and he said that he's hearing so many people. I said, you're either listening to YouTube and Zoom at the same time because you're mixing everything up and microphone on. And he didn't believe me. I said, turn something off because you're just interrupting the, the Zoom call. So I don't know what he's going to do.
But he keeps turning it back on.
I know.
I don't know if there's an override.
Well, you can lock him out.
Well,
kick him out. He can listen on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
okay, well, hopefully once we get started here with the presentation, Rod, do you want to give a little introduction here before I fire this up?
Sure. I'll try to keep this part brief. We have a 32-minute video that we showed at the QSO Today Ham Expo a week ago. And 4 of us participated in that. You'll see the co-presenters mentioned, so I won't elaborate on that. So we had a diverse group with different perspectives on part of amateur television. And so we're going to show you that. And it's a good general thing to cover the topic of ATV today. This isn't your grandfather's ATV. This is right up to date. And then we'll have a Q&A session. And in that session, we can focus more about what's going on with ATV in Santa Barbara. And just a brief note, I moved to Santa Barbara in 1977, and I brought the beginnings of an ATV repeater along with me. And I remember going down to Hemmock on a Saturday morning and met the guys, and that was the beginning of a lot of great friendships. And I asked everybody, well, how many of you guys are on ATV? Nobody raised their hand. And I said, well, how would you like me to put up an ATV repeater? I've got one ready to go. And people didn't understand what ATV was all about. Anyway, 1980, we got the repeater on the air up on Gibraltar Road at the KTYD transmitter site. And it has been on the air since then, even after I moved out of Santa Barbara 7 years ago now. And I keep it operating, and I've built links back into Mesa and into the LA area. So we can talk about that more in the Q&A session. Anyway.
A second, maybe 2 seconds. God damn it, read it. Some people of us, God damn it, most of us have gray hair. We can't read.
Okay, I thought that was a question, but I don't think it was intended for me. So that's my intro. So we're going to watch this 32-minute video, and you're going to see Hammy the hamster at the beginning. There's a little bit of an Easter egg there. I'm going to give you a hint. Listen for some Morse code in what he's humming. Okay, so afterwards I'll ask people, well, what did you hear? And I'm sure some of you guys can decode it because it's pretty slow. Anyway, so there we go. Looking forward to the Q&A and then zeroing in on Santa Barbara in the Q&A. Back to you, Brian. Thanks for having me on here. Always a pleasure to deal with everybody in Santa Barbara. I lived there 35 years. And I always think of it as my home. Take it away, Brian.
All right, so we're going to play a video here. I'm going to share my screen, and it's going to go for 32 minutes and 21 seconds, I think. So you guys sit back and enjoy. Let me get it started, and then I'll share my screen. Okay.
Hello, I'm Rod Fritz, WB9KMO from Mesa, Arizona. And I'm one of those hamsters that's going to be showing you our introduction to digital amateur television. The history of television goes back 100 years, and hams were pioneers in the 1920s. And today, we've come a long, long way. Amateur radio operators now use television in digital mode using Dvdt and DVB-S. And we'll be describing that alphabet soup to you a little bit. TV began with mechanical spinning discs. And that wasn't going anywhere very fast, but it was certainly a big stretch from audio to be able to see things. Then Philo T. Farnsworth developed this little electronic tube camera, and we also have CRTs, so now we can do television with electronics instead of mechanical things. It made a world of difference. And then more recently, we have solid state cameras and flat screen TVs, and finally, we switched from analog television to digital television, and we'll describe a lot about that later. So you'll need this ATV studio equipment in your ham shack. So just a quick review, you're going to need at least one video monitor or a digital TV going on. You'll need video sources, at least one camera of a sort, but there's options. Lighting is very, very important, so that we can see you and glory. A software package called vMix, and we'll describe that. Video switch is handy if you have multiple inputs, and the one we like is ATEM Mini, and I will show you a picture of that. Then we're going to talk about transmitters and antennas and receivers and antennas. They're a little bit different from other transmitters and receivers that you might be aware of. Video sources include camcorders. You're pretty comfortable with those. For digital, we like HDMI outputs. And webcams. Webcams usually have USB outputs, but usually they're connected to a computer, and you can get HDMI output from the computer. Laptops with built-in cameras are pretty slick. Everything's all in one place. You just use the HDMI output on the laptop, and away you go. That's what you connect to your transmitter or your switch if you're going to switch different sources. Lighting. Proper lighting is important. You want to make sure you don't have too much black or too much white in the picture. And getting that balance is a little tricky sometimes. The best lighting is usually from 3 lights spaced around the object. And the key light is the one in front. You want it about 30 degrees over your head and forward of you. And then fill lights would be on the side. And they get rid of shadows and give you enough light for a really nice picture. I hope this is working. That's what I have here. Another video source is security cameras, and those are a lot of fun. Another video source is a video phone, and that's kind of nice because they have built-in computers, usually running the Android system. And what's nice about that is that you can bring up things like the mesh network, and then they have HDMI outputs that you can connect to your switch or your transmitter. And Another video source that's really handy are video files that you've recorded one way or another. You can just play the files through your computer and output the HDMI into your transmit system. You can select video with a video switch. There are a couple of ways that it's done. On the right, you see an ATEM Mini, which is an electronic switch, and a lot of switches will cause delays, but this one is very quick. So we highly recommend this. And that you just plug your HDMI inputs into it. You have an HDMI output then that goes to your transmit. On the left, you see a screen from a PC. And you do the switching there with your PC using a program called vMix. It's a free program, unless you get really fancy and want a lot of inputs, but you get 4 inputs for free. Highly recommended to try this. And again, the inputs go into your computer one way or the other, and then you use the HDMI output to go into your transmitter system. Thank you. That's all I've got for now. Let's turn it over to Mike Collis, WA6SVT.
Hello, I'm Mike Collis, WA6SVT. I've been into amateur television for over 40 years. So I guess that makes me an elder. First, we'll talk about comparing the spectrum of a Dvdt narrowband 2 megahertz bandwidth signal versus a 6 megahertz wide residual sideband ATV signal. And screen on the left is 2 megahertz. And as you can see, it has kind of a haystack effect. So you have full power over slightly less than 2 megahertz bandwidth. And in the case of 434 megahertz, we do that so that we stay out of the 432 weak signal and the Oscar satellite band above 435. In the case of the AM signal, 434 megahertz, most of the power is at the carrier. Most of the lower carrier is cut off, and then there's an oral carrier at the very far right of the screen. A little fuzzy stuff in between is the video sidebands. So kind of comparing the to digital, let's jump into our next slide, which is a basic DVB-T digital system. We use a typically a high definition TV camcorder, or you can use standard definition NTSC and upgrade it. We use a DVB-T exciter modulator, and then we drive a very linear amplifier and then off to our antenna. A receiver for best sensitivity, we recommend a preamplifier followed by a high-des or other brand DVB-T receiver, and then your high-definition monitor. Our next slide shows a picture of some of the high-des and amplifier equipment. High-des receivers on the left, and on the right is a amplifier by K86HTV video, and an exciter by high-des, and then a high-definition camcorder. We talked about very linear amplifiers. A good example of that is a high-power version on the left that's good for 10 watts. These are great for your base station, or you can use them for an ATV repeater. If you want to run portable for like ARES or other emergency services, a smaller 3-watt version is a little easier to take, although you can use the high power if you've got room in your backpack or a roof for that. Next slide is analog ATV transmitters and receivers, and there's still quite a bit of analog activity. On the far left is a earlier version of the K86HTV transmitter using a residual sideband exciter embedded in the front panel, and one of his amplifiers all in one case. To the right of that, with the black face, is one of the PC Electronics transceivers. That one's a TC70, I believe. Those are still available on the used market. And then below on the left is an MFJ transmitter, 5 watts maximum peak sync, about 2 or 3 watts average. And to the right of that is a 1 watt AEA transmitter available on the used market. That is a residual sideband transmitters. So 2 vestigials and 2, the other 2, the PC and the MFJ are full AM. There's no filtering of the lower sideband. If you want to operate or receive ATV on the 23 centimeter band or higher bands, down converters typically used. Our example here is the K86HTV model T3-7, or on the used market with PC Electronics TVC 12S and E. There's 3 or 4 different versions, both crystal controls, synthesized, and VFO that Tom had over the years. If you want to extend your range on from simplex to repeater, here's a basic Dvdt repeater. This one's in band, so it's transmitting and receiving within 70 centimeters. And this is one that K86HTV Video can build for you if you'd like it, or you can buy the modules and put it together yourself. Our next slide shows a much larger ATV system. This is part of the amateur TV network. This is our hub repeater at Santiago Peak. We have a 5910 FM transmitter, a 1253 vestigial sideband transmitter that will soon be switched to DVB-T. It currently has DVB-T on 434, vestigial sideband on 434, and FM input on 2441.5, and a bunch of link radios and voice control systems. Next slide here. This is a basic map of our link repeater systems in the tri-state area. We also have chapters in other countries. The green lines are the active ones, the red ones are under construction. Sources for equipment. Currently, hides.com.tw, they're out of Taiwan, and they are ATVers who have a commercial business, and they have a modified version of their equipment for ham radio, which is very nice of them. And K86HTV.com, he sells the amplifiers that work really well with the high-des equipment. And he also has analog FM, and he can supply the super sideband exciters as well. He has down converters and amplifiers. Then we have MFJ.com, and they have just the AM transmitter of the 70 centimeter band. That's it for the equipment. Look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, I'm Roland Hoffman, KC6JPG. I'm the Digital Systems Director for the Amateur Television Network, and I'm also the Net Control Operator for our Southern California and Nevada chapter for ATN. Well, how'd I get started? Well, 1993, I wanted to watch NASA Select, watch the space shuttle programs while they're on a mission. And I had cable, and I did not have the luxury of having NASA Select, with my cable television service. So I heard that one of the ATV repeaters do transmit the space shuttle program when the shuttles are in a mission. And so I bought a down converter. I got some low loss coax, and I got a beam antenna, and I fixed it towards the direction of Mount Wilson. And as soon as I turned on my down converter and watched it on my TV screen, I saw a guy rocking in a rocking chair. I had the call signs KA6DPS. And I said to myself, who in the heck is this? And so, of course, there was a 2 meter frequency, 146.43. And I got on my 2 meter radio and I announced myself. And he said, who that? And I announced myself, KC6JPG. And history was made. Oh, it was, what a ride. Well, every Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, we host the Amateur Television Network's The Weekly Net. And we get people from not just around our system, around the RF region, but throughout the entire world. It has become an international party, and we invite you to join us. And if you're not within our ATN chapter repeater systems, you can always check in on our whereby system at whereby.com/ATN1. And so I bet the big curious question you might ask is, how far has an amateur television signal transmitted? Well, I will tell you. Back in 1994, an ATV distance record has been set. Paul, KH6HME, transmitted a beacon signal from high atop Mauna Loa on the island of Hawaii. Now, his signal was first received by Gordon West, WB9KMO, with a distance of 2,509 miles. And of course, you can see the picture right there on the screen. Now, in regards to digital amateur television, how far has a digital ATV signal been recorded? Well, so far, back in 2014, a distance of 180 miles DVB-T with 2 megahertz bandwidth simplex was successfully received by W8ZCF. Now, how do we measure the signal strength of an ATV signal? Well, you're familiar with the S meter for the voice radios. Well, in the video, we have a different system. We have what we call P units, and a P unit is simply a picture unit. And so when we say P0, well, it's just like the top left of the screen here, where it's just simply all snow. And you can just barely see any kind of resemblance of a picture. P1 is where you start seeing sync bars and some sort of a picture, but it's mostly snow. P2, well, the picture now starts to lock in. You may get some black and white and color, back and forth. P3, color starts locking in, still a lot of snow. P4, picture looks pretty darn good with a little bit of snow in it. And of course, P5 is closed circuit quality. When we get into digital amateur television, well, guess what? Our pictures, when we're locked into the system, well, whether it be a repeater or simplex, well, our pictures are P5, pretty much. And anytime that we're on what we call the digital cliff, well, that's when we'll start seeing some artifacts like tiling and freeze frames. And then once we're beyond the range, then it will just simply lock up as a freeze frame or no picture at all, like a black picture. The signals that you're looking at on this chart compares between VUSB, or known as vestigial upper sideband, compared with FM modulation and DVB-T QPSK modulation. VUSB, as you can see, you'll start being detected just above minus 100 dBm, and then you'll start getting a closed circuit P5 picture at approximately minus 60 dBm. FM TV, pretty much in the same range, you can get a full closed circuit quality picture at approximately minus 83 dBm. DVB-T, on the other hand, once it receives its signal at approximately minus 98 dBm, and it will lock in, and they will get pretty much a P5 picture once your signal gets stronger. The United States, the ATV repeaters in the United States, well, we currently have approximately 41 active ATV repeaters throughout the country. 23 repeaters within the country are analog only at this time. And then, of course, 18 of these repeaters are either in the digital mode or what we call mixed modes, where we have digital in with analog out, or analog in with digital out. And of course, we have what we call full hybrid, which is either analog or digital. 21 of these repeaters have an output on 70 centimeter bands, which that means is if you have a cable ready television set or a cable ready box, you can simply hook up a beam antenna directly into the back of your TV set, set it on cable channel 59, and you can receive the 434 input signal, or channel 57 for 426.25. Well, some of you are saying, well, that sounds, a lot of fun, but, I really want to watch ATV without investing in any equipment, or I'm just simply out of a range of an ATV repeater. Well, how can I watch it? Well, have no fear. All you have to do is go to one of the streaming websites that we're constantly streaming our video. For example, the British Amateur Television Club has a streaming system on their website, which is batc.org.uk/live. And you'll see a list of amateur television repeaters currently broadcasting or camcasting live. And you can watch their video on their players. On the Amateur Television Network, we're streaming on YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can watch us and you can chat with us on youtube.com/Amateur Television Network. We're also integrating amateur television into the mesh system. KC6JPG, that's my call sign. I got a streaming system plugged into the Arden Mesh system. So if you go into the Arden Mesh, just find KC6JPG and you can find a streaming system for the Santiago Peak repeater system. And you can just type in RTSP/W6ATN-stream.local.mesh. And of course, the port number 554/live. And you can watch our live signal on the Arden Mesh Network. So, big question. Amateur television, what is it used for? Well, that's a big question. Well, 4 big things that happen with amateur television. 1, emergency communications, public service, education, and of course, fun and socializing. Because think about it, amateur television is the original social media network. Emergency communications, well, that becomes huge with the amateur television network system. Most of our repeater system have cameras on top of the repeaters on top of the mountaintops. And so, especially here in California, where wildfires are, quite frequent every year, these cameras have been very, very useful for emergency operations centers, through law enforcement and our fire personnel, so they can deploy resources, so they can protect life and as well as property and whatever resources they need to combat the event. This is a typical picture of an EOC center, or emergency operations center. And a lot of emergency operations centers do have down converters or receivers to receive their local amateur television repeater system. And therefore, they'll be able to capture many different events, including watching the wildfires, and so they can deploy resources more effectively. Public service is huge within the amateur television network. We deploy our mobile video truck to many different events to help and engage many different events and help local officials to ensure a successful event, whether it be races, bicycle events, parades, many different events that we serve through our local community. Education is huge with the amateur television network. This is a picture of what we have here is we have Tom, WB6HYH on the camera, and we have Gary, W6KVC, and they're manning the camera and Gary's manning the switcher, the San Bernardino Microwave Society's monthly meeting. They have fantastic topics to really engage the amateur radio community in the hobby of microwave technology. We also have amateur television equipment on board the International Space Station. Pictured is that blue box is simply a 20-watt DVB-S transmitter, which is located on the International Space Station. In the future, we're going to continue our digital transition for our ATV repeaters throughout the country. IP linking with ATV repeater systems throughout the country and the world, so we can communicate with many ATVers from distant places. And of course, communicating with other ATVers throughout the world using other digital modes, including DMR radio, where we have a talk group known as ATV Talk 9410. So we encourage you to plug in our talk group onto your DMR radios. And now I'd like to pass it to Jim Andrews as he'll talk in depth about DVB technology.
Hello, I'm Jim Andrews, KH6HTV. I live in Boulder, Colorado. The KH6 call, though, is because for the past 18 years, I've been a retired snowbird living on the island of Maui in the Hawaiian Islands during the winter time. So DVB-T has become the choice for most digital ATV hams in the US. And it is, in fact, the broadcast standard used for almost all the rest of the world, with the sole exceptions of the US, Canada, Mexico, and South Korea. In this DVB-T, they use either 2,000 or 8,000 closely spaced subcarriers carrying packetized digital data. And it uses three possible modulations: QPSK, which is purely 90-degree phase shifting, or two levels of quadrature amplitude modulation, which is both phase shifting and amplitude modulating. DVB-T includes pilot tones in the 8,000 subcarriers, and the receiver uses these pilot tones to dynamically characterize the channel and determine the channel's impulse response. It then deconvolves out the signal, eliminating these echoes. The echoes would have been seen as ghosts on analog TV. And this system also works extremely well for removing Doppler shift. I, in fact, have driven at over 70 miles per hour down the highway, both transmitting and receiving with DVB-T, and encountered no problems. Whereas with ATSC, any Doppler shift at all, and the signal locks up. So what is the differences between these various ones? Well, the biggest difference for us from a ham perspective is the sensitivity of the receiver. With QPSK, we can get down to minus 97 dBm. We lose 5 dB if we go to 16 QAM, and we lose another 10 dB going to 64. If we add a low noise preamp, we can usually buy about another 3 dB in sensitivity over these numbers. And also, if we go to extremely aggressive forward error correction, we can also buy maybe about another 3 dB. If you want to get by really cheap, a USB TV tuner dongle can be had for as low as $10. They're more typically in the $20, $30 range. These are the same dongles that many hams are already using as wideband SDR receivers. However, I caution you, not everybody's been able to get them to work, especially they've been problematic on Windows 10, and there are issues of bogus drivers out there. And so, again, good luck. So let's see what these numbers would look like if we take a typical amplifier used in a final in the transmitter. I'm going to run it saturated for FM and get 65 watts. I look at where the 1 dB gain compression is on this amplifier, maybe about 50 watts. So if I'm running single sideband, I may in fact run it up to that 1 dB gain compression point, 50 watts peak PEP. With this same amplifier, if I want to run analog video through it and don't have any compression on the sync pulse, so I'm back in the much more linear range, I'm going to rate that probably at about 25 watts. Because again, that's going to be peak envelope power at 25 watts. And the average power would be less than that. For digital TV, for this same amplifier, we're going to get 10 watts RMS out of it. So what that means is we're going to need a minimum of 8 dB headroom in this amplifier to accommodate the peaks in that noise-like digital signal. So these are some typical amplifiers that I build. The one on the left is a high power version, putting out 10 watts RMS for digital, actually about 65 to 70 watts if you used it in the FM service. And this would typically be used for base stations and repeaters. The amplifier on the right is a medium power amplifier putting out 3 watts, and We use these primarily for portable service in the ARES, where they're running off of batteries and you don't want to supply as much current as required by the high power amplifier, especially if you're carrying that battery in your backpack. So I do have amplifiers for all three bands of 70, 33, and 23 centimeters, and they all have at least 50 dB of gain. And they have adjustable power levels where you can drop the power by 5 to 10 or 10 dB. I want to thank Grant for KB7 WSD for inviting me to talk to you today. Grant and Vicki were visitors in our home on Maui for the Maui Ham Club Christmas picnic and barbecue a couple of years ago.
And of course, I'd like to say thank you very, very much for the Amateur Television Network, the Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network, or ARDN. We'd like to also thank Boulder County Amateur Radio Services, British Amateur Television Club, the Radio Amateur Satellite Corporation, the San Bernardino Microwave Society, YouTube, Art Towsley, WA8RMC, Farrell Winder, W8ZCF, Gary Heston, W6AVC, Jim Andrews, KH6HTV, Kevin Jacobson, AD7OI, and Steve Estes, KB7KWK, for their contributions to this presentation. For more information, you can always contact us through the Amateur Television Network through our website, www.atn-tv.com. You can also contact one of us if you need more information. So you can see that right on the screen. So remember, hams love to be seen and heard. And of course, with amateur television, you won't be left behind. Just get on ATV. Thank you very much for watching, and we're here to answer your questions.
Okay, WB9KMO, Rod. Excellent video.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we had a really good team effort on that. And the team is all here. Mike just checked in too. So there are 4 of us, myself, Roland, Mike, and Jim. We have a very broad amount of experience here and would be glad to answer any questions that anybody has. So without further ado, fire away.
Who's got a question? Well, I have a question.
Okay.
What, now tell us about your repeater here in Santa Barbara and how you've got that I don't believe when you were here before that it was digital at the time. I think it was just analog. I remember the test signal on the TV down at the shack.
Okay. Well, there are digital elements of it, but it's still not digital. And the reason for that is I've been ready to upgrade it, but there hasn't been any particular reason. It functions primarily using links that are RF links from Southern California. And I have a VPN over the internet from Mesa, so I can stream video into the repeater and get video out of it from Arizona and control it. And I've also done streaming on YouTube with it, streaming on the British Amateur Television Club. So those are the digital elements, the things that go over the internet. The amplifier in it is digital ready. I have an exciter for it. So really all we have to do is install the exciter and the output will be full HD. And we have receivers. Right now the 434 receiver is analog, but we have 434 digital receivers that we can pop in there virtually on a moment's notice. And so that will get people in with 720p input using 2 megahertz bandwidth on 434. There's also a 2441.5 FM input and it's pretty high resolution the way that it is. We are experimenting on 2.4 gigahertz and hope to be able to have a 1080p digital input sometime soon. So as far as Santa Barbara goes, the digital nature of the repeater just depends on what local people want it to do. And we are fully prepared to make it do it. Back to you.
Okay, let's see. Ken, you look like you have questions over there.
Yes, I do. The thing that intrigued me was, Rod, somebody in the presentation said that you could get a cable-ready TV and turn it to, I think he said channel 56 or 57. I don't actually watch TV, so I don't know what cable-ready TV means exactly, but how is it that you can go buy a TV off the shelf and it happens to use the exact same frequency that's in the ham band? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Well, I'm going to answer that for you. This is Roland, KC6JPG. And of course, you can find flat screen TVs that still have the old standard definition tuners that are in them. And if they are cable ready, as you well know, with cable television, they use a different atmosphere, which is a cable, and they have different frequency allocations for cable. And so therefore, if you try to, let's say you're transmitting a 434 signal, okay, a TV signal, VSB, okay. Obviously, if you tune into the old channel 57 on UHF, that's not going to work because that's a different frequency spectrum. But now you switch that over the air switch to cable, now you're in a different frequency set, basically a different tuner. And so what happens is that now you're tuning in the channel 59, and that's pretty darn close to the 434 input transmission signals that we put out, that we go into the ATV repeater systems. And also we use 42625, which is channel 57 on the cable tuner mode. And that's what we use for simplex operations. So you can do point to point, you can have fun with your friends. One person can be located on the, let's say Santa Monica. The other one's going to be located down by Malibu. You can shoot between each other across the ocean and have a great time. Yeah, we do quite a bit of simplexing, especially with DVB-T protocol or transmission format, and kind of finding out how far can we take our digital signals. And so we're using 427 for simplexing on for DVB-T when we do experimenting. So that's how you can tune in. So on eBay, you can probably grab a cable box next to nothing, basically, because it's analog, and we're living in a high definition world. So you can find these on eBay, Hamfest. You can find old TV sets on, if they're just throwing them away, because most of them are just throwing them away. They're giving them away, to be had. And or to get started on ETV, because we're still on analog, on a lot of our repeater outputs, except for Snow Peak over in the Palm Springs, Coachella Valley area, we're still on vestigial sideband. And so you'll need a down converter. Down converter will go into, let's say, channel 10 on your analog standard definition TV set. And then you can simply tune in on that by using a down.
Roland, let me focus on Santa Barbara a little bit here, because
well, he wanted to know about the how do you receive the
yes, but he's in Santa Barbara. Okay, in Santa Barbara, the only way that you're going to do anything with a TV set that you have is you can go take a TV set that has cable inputs on it, connect it to channel 59, cable channel 59, and that's actually 433.2.5, excuse me, 433.25 megahertz. And it works fine on 434 megahertz. And that will allow you to monitor the transmissions in Santa Barbara that go into the ATV repeater. There is nothing on the ATV repeater in Santa Barbara that you can receive directly on your cable-ready TV set. So just a reality check on that. Now, if you go other places, you can do other things. But we're encouraging people to go digital, and you're going to need some special equipment for that. And the output of the Santa Barbara repeater is 1289.25. So you use a down converter. It's analog right now. The down converter converts it into the normal analog TV band, and then you can receive the output of the down converter on your regular analog TV set. And you can contact me for a better discussion of this, WB9KMO at gmail.com. I'm happy to walk people through what you can do. Okay, next question.
Okay, I'd like to add a little bit more on that, that if you do go to digital there in Santa Barbara, it does require additional one more box, and it'd be the same thing as like the cable box that the cable company typically gives you. So this would be a little receiver that would be used for receiving the digital. And this is about $100, and it will take care of any of those narrow bandwidths that they're talking about. Example, SMA input for the antenna, HDMI output that just goes to your big screen TV. And any of your big screen TVs has lots of the HDMI inputs on the output. So once you go to digital there in Santa Barbara, it will involve basically one more box.
Yeah, that's all you need. You don't need a down converter with that because they tune the 1200 band directly. So you just connect your 1200 antenna up to that SMA input, and it does the complete receive operation, giving you HDMI output that you can connect to a TV set video input or a video monitor.
Actually, I would like to inject there in the Los Angeles, Southern California area. You've got so much RF floating around that you guys are really bandwidth constricted, particularly on 70 centimeters. So you've had to go to like your 2 or 4 megahertz bandwidths for your TV. Out here more in the middle of the country, we don't have as many people, and we're actually running 6 megahertz bandwidth here in Boulder, Colorado, which is essentially what commercial television runs. And in areas where they're running 6 megahertz, you can get a down converter, not a down converter, a receiver for somewhere between, we've seen them as low as $15. Again, it just looks like the cable box that the cable company supplies you, but an antenna in the input and an HDMI output. And so these things are being sold like on Amazon and so forth. So at least in other parts of the country where you can run 6 megahertz, it gets really dirt cheap to have the receiver.
Good point. Let me bring it home to Santa Barbara again. The format that we use, Dvdt, is the terrestrial format for Europeans, okay, and some other parts of the world. But ham radio in the United States uses that because it's the best format for us. So in Europe, they sell all kinds of inexpensive receivers, like what Jim just showed you there. So there are inexpensive ways to receive this. Now in Santa Barbara, our plan is on 1289.25 to have a 6 megahertz output full 1080p transmitter when we go digital. And so those inexpensive receivers will work as long as they receive the 1200 band.
No,
if they don't.
No, this one, they don't. They basically.
Then you need a down converter.
They will cover the 33 centimeter band. They go up to about 950. But
right, so you need a down converter, and then you can use down convert into that receiver, much as we're doing now with analog. In fact, the analog down converters, if they're stable enough, will probably work fine with digital. Likewise, on 2441.5, our plan is to try to use 6 megahertz transmissions to get into the repeater with full 1080p. So those are the plans, and if people want to get on the air, we will put that equipment in and make it go.
I think Mike wants to go next.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, you guys hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Okay, great. I was looking for the VU meter. Well, just to try to make things a little clearer, because you guys are giving a lot of good information, but a lot of different ways to go. And from my perspective, what I would see is whether you folks want to, because right now there's no active ATV stations in Santa Barbara other than some of the old equipment for the club station. If you guys are seriously interested in wanting to go, the least expensive way would be just to switch over to digital, and then you only need the same receiver that Jim showed. There's basically two versions, the one that goes up to $950 or $960, which is the $99 or $100 one, and the one with the down converter built in is about $200. And that has the down converter and everything built in. If you folks wanted to try to make use of the analog part of the repeater first before going digital, then I would recommend, rather than trying to get used PC electronics down converters that had the VFO on them, is to either get the latest version synthesized one that Tom used to make, or the current model that Jim sells that is synthesized, and it will work with the cheaper receiver, so you could use it for analog now. And then if we take the output digital, then you would not need to buy the $200 receiver. You could get the $99 receiver, or there's also some dongles that are available from the same company, Hydez, that you can plug into the computer, and they're dirt cheap. They're like $80, and then you could plug the down converter into that, and then you'd have a digital. So a lot would determine whether, if you folks most of you would be starting from scratch, is whether you want to start up digital or start up analog and switch over. And if the ultimate goal is to go digital, to me, it would make sense to just flat out get the digital gear now rather than get analog and then have to buy more gear later to minimize your cost. Anyway, that was all I had to say for now anyway.
One point here, the least expensive way to get on the air in Santa Barbara is to allow me to donate the equipment to the club station if you're willing to put it on the air. And that won't cost anything except a little bit of work around there. So, keep that in mind. If you want to go digital, I will offer up digital equipment, and I'll make sure that the repeater operates digital as well, which is what I've wanted to do for a long time anyway. Back to you, Brian.
Are you guys doing anything with 3 gigahertz, or is that a lost cause?
We're doing things with it, but we're going to have to shut them down pretty soon. So
I wouldn't say that. We're grandfathered on 3380. And that part of the band, NTIA has not moved their radar systems out. So we may be on there for years, but above 3400, that may be gone by next year.
Nothing new though. Yes, we're on the air, but we have not, we're not going to put anything new up.
Now, how close are you to what the mesh 3 gig stuff is? I don't remember where the mesh is, if that's on the.
They're usually 3400 and above, because their equipment does start, the output power and sensitivity start dropping off below 3400, and then they go out of lock pretty rapidly below 3400. So they're up in the part of the band that will probably disappear. But known the way I was involved with David Siddell from the ARRL, and for those of you who don't know, David used to work for the FCC, fairly high up. So some of the fires and stuff we've had, some of the information that Jim shared with, fighting to save the band and stuff that we did in Southern California caught the FCC's attention. So they were able to work out a deal to still, on that Mobile Now Act that Congress did and the past president signed, still meet that goal at the same time, not force us off the band. Once the licenses go out for 3450 and then on up to 3550 and in some of the other higher bands. Once that band starts, licenses go out, then any amateur operation in that part of the band that is grandfathered has to cease and go away. Below 3400, like I mentioned, until NTIA is got the military cleared out, if the military can even clear out. They're not sure that they can. They still need spectrum to operate a lot of radar stuff, and they just don't think that they can fit it in from 3.1 to 3.3. So, and the worldwide standard is 3450. However, for some reason, the line drawn in the sand is 3400. So new systems, no, but any existing system up until when the hams had to vacate could still stay operating. So hopefully that answers your question.
And we have a transmitter, a TV transmitter on Oak Mountain, transmits in the 3 gigahertz band. So we hope we can keep that on for a long time.
I like to make a transition to something a little technical, to something a lot more fun, okay? Because that's what amateur television is. It is all about fun. And like I said, I invite you all to our ATV Net, our Amateur Television Network's The Weekly Net. And we do this every Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And we have people checking in from not just around our system, but all around the world by using whereby.com/ATN1. So what I'm going to do, we're going to play a little amateur television. So make sure you're on presentation mode, because the ATV repeater at Santiago Peak, which is the hub of our ATN system that's linked up with the Santa Barbara machine, also linked up with Oak Mountain in the San Fernando, Santa Clarita Valley area. Also, Mount Wilson, that's where Mike was working, and that's where he is at right now. And of course, the Mount Wilson ATV repeater is over there. And of course, now there's Mike displaying his job site at KCBS. That's the transmitter site, as well as KCAL. And of course, I believe KTWV is up there as well. And of course, Job's Peak. And of course, that's where Mike lives, at Job's Peak. We have an ATV repeater over there. And of course, Snow Peak, our first ever digital television, digital amateur television repeater. And that's outputting DVB-T, 4 megahertz output. And I believe is on 1240 megahertz. That's also, go ahead.
1242 center channel.
Okay, center channel 1242, very good. And so Job's Peak is linked to our repeater out at Ord Mountain, which is just outside Barstow. And it's also linked to the Nevada repeater at Mount Potosi, looking over Las Vegas. So what I'm gonna do is make sure you're on presentation mode. Here we go. Let's
Santa Barbara too.
Let's see. And Brian, get some other questions ready. We'll get into that after this again.
Okay, so this is Roland, KC6JPG, and we're here on the Amateur Television Network. We're doing a demonstration at Santa Barbara. Is anyone out here tonight on amateur television? This is Roland, KC6JPG.
Yeah, W6MAF. Shoot the picture.
Now there's a view from my place looking north.
W6MAF, KC6JPG. Mike, Finn, what's going on? How's it going tonight?
Oh, fantastic. It's Friday. Even though I'm retired, it's still Friday for everybody else. I don't have to drive in that traffic. Anyway, just hanging out in the shack, having a good old time. So shooting video and just having fun. And the weekend's here and it's beautiful weather, so enjoying myself. Back to you there, Roland. KC6JPG, W6MAF, Oak Hills, California.
W6MAF, KC6JPG. Very good, Fish. Well, I'll tell you, this is the original social media network. You got it. And I'm certainly glad you're out there. And of course, for those that are watching on the Santa Barbara Amateur Radio Club and watching our presentation, Yes, you can do a lot of great things on amateur television. You can show graphics, you can show your call sign, just like that. You can show all kinds of different stuff. You can show, what we do is we do a lot of advertising, a lot of public service announcements. We do check-ins, Mount Potosi. We definitely give a little personal experience of ATV. And not only that, we are also linked up to many other ATV repeater systems, including Mount Post and Mount Diablo, W6CX.
Anything on the Vasa.
You got it.
Including Santa Barbara. I want to make a point here.
And then there's W7 ATN. And of course, we also play Newsline. And of course, we bring in Don Wilbanks, AE5DW.
Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2261. These are the headlines for Wednesday.
And so
Roland?
we have a lot of fun on our Tuesday night nets. And we also have a lot of fun on the Sunday night nets for Arizona as well. Every Sunday at 7 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time. And we definitely invite you to go to our Whereby channel. And that's whereby.com/ATN1. And I invite you to definitely check in on the Amateur Television Network during our weekly nets. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and transmit out, and then we're going to go right back into the meeting. KC6 JPG.
So therefore, okay, so just real quick, what I was doing is I was transmitting a DVB-T signal, a digital signal. I'm using 2 megahertz bandwidth using 16 QAM modulation, 16 QAM constellation. And it works pretty darn good, considering that we're going from digital and then scaling it down to 480i. And so compared to when I was transmitting on AM, it looked like pretty much a VCR tape, and now I look like a DV tape now in comparison. So the digital has definitely, increased the signal quality. And of course, our project will be outputting DVB-T in the future, starting with Mount Wilson and Santiago Peak, and basically joining the Snow Peak repeater system that is also transmitting on DVB-T. Back to you.
Just a comment here about Santa Barbara again. All of that stuff that was going on there, you might think was just happening in LA. Well, there is a two-way link between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara that's on 24/7. So all of that video, P5, is coming into the Santa Barbara repeater. And if you were watching the Santa Barbara repeater, you would see all of that, that video live real time. Also, there's a link going back. So when you transmit into the Santa Barbara repeater on 434 right now, it gets repeated back into the amateur television network. So not only do you transmit through the Santa Barbara repeater, but it goes into the whole network and out to several repeaters in the network, including the BATC and the YouTube feeds throughout the world. So this, Santa Barbara gets a huge amount of activity. It's just not coming from Santa Barbara. It's coming from everywhere else. Back to you, Brian.
Levi, you just joined us. Did you have any questions about ATV?
I don't want to be redundant because I did just join and I'm going to go back and watch the rest of the presentation on tape delay. But I did want to know, I saw some earlier threads as you guys were gearing up for this this presentation, that there was the possibility of getting on digital for maybe less cost than getting on analog historically. Is that the case? And what do people need to buy to get on the air?
I can let some of the other guys comment on that. The premium stuff costs more, but there are some low-cost ways to get on the air. Anyone want to comment on that?
Rod, since Jim sells the amplifiers that go with the high-des equipment, maybe Jim would be best to talk about the equipment to get on ATV on 77.
Yeah, we did cover this in the video to some extent too, but yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Hey, so Levi, are you talking about just receiving or
no, transmitters?
I guess both. I mean, ideally both, but if receiving might be more accessible for people, and particularly because not everybody has line of sight to the repeater, if there was an inexpensive way to just receive the beacon of the repeater and maybe listen in on one of the nets while mobile, without getting too heavily invested, just to see how we like it, might be a good way to experiment. So
you can monitor our streams on the internet all the time.
But that's, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if people want to actually pull it off your repeater from the air for the fun of actually receiving this thing because we like radio, how do we do that? You know?
Absolutely. And what I
like your attitude. I like the RF.
Exactly. I love it. And what I recommend is, without investing any equipment, you can go into our whereby.com/ATN1 and you can actually interact with us. You can watch the repeaters. You can watch people coming in on RF. And also you see everyone from around the world ready to check into the amateur television network. So you just, even your phone, Whereby has an app, and you can just simply dial in ATN1. That's our room number 1 for ATN. And I recommend just having fun with it. The system is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if there's people chatting away, join the video conference when we're not doing the nets. So
Jim, tell us about the equipment.
So the equipment, well, basically.
No, Jim, turn it over to Jim.
We're turning it over to Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, well, I guess probably the key thing would be if you get the system there in Santa Barbara to be transmitting digital on 434, then that's going to be the least expensive way for everybody to start watching it. And I think the key thing is,
we won't do that. We will not transmit on 434. That will be an input. We will transmit on 1289.1.
Oh, okay. All right. My mistake.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
that receiver you showed, Jim, was the dual band. That's what they would need for receiving digital. You showed it earlier.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, I have bad news to share with you, Mike. And I just got an email yesterday from Calvin in Taiwan. And that receiver that was about $200 they've discontinued.
Oh, no.
Yep, they're pushing their what do they call it?
But that's okay. There are other receivers that are even less expensive.
They're pushing their $300 receiver, which is the
122.
The 122.
They are not the only game in town, and for our repeater output 1289, there are other receivers available. We just have to use a down converter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by the time you add the cost of a down converter and another receiver, you're up to that same price again.
Yeah. So unfortunately, you're probably looking at $300 to be able to receive it off of 1200 megahertz.
Is there any way to receive it with an SDR or any kind of computer? I know some of the RTLRs were originally for receiving television in the Asian markets. Is there anything like that would work for your signals?
Yes, there is some devices out there that uses SDR technology. And of course, I see people programming using new radio, using Python, and putting in SDR. I've seen successfully, they have put in DVB-S. And of course, since we use DVB-T down here in Southern California, I have not personally seen a SDR unit that has received DVB-T, but it is capable of receiving DVB-T.
Yeah, it's a software issue, but any SDR that you might want to receive our repeater output on, you need to double check and make sure that it can receive 1289.25.
Okay.
Some of them do go up beyond.
Understanding this particular unit here, normally on a Windows computer only goes up to maybe 900 megs, but apparently some people with Linux computers have been able to get this going up to the 23 centimeter band. And this is a $25 dongle.
Yeah, there's a lot of there are a lot of devices out there, and we could help you figure out some that would work.
What about one of these?
Yeah, those will work. I've got
Oh,
one.
I love those.
We aren't certain that it has the right software available to receive DVD dash.
Well, no, you have to program it. See, that's the fun part. And if there's some ATVQ articles that I wrote about the Hack RF1, you can turn your phone into a spectrum analyzer using an a Hack RF1. You can also use it as a narrow or wideband FM receiver. I did a demonstration on ATVQ magazine. And of course, what I love to do is continue my 4-part series and do DVB-S receive and DVB-T receive. And hopefully like to do it, try to do an ATV transmit on that Hack RF. So that is a wonderful unit you got there.
Yeah, I like it.
I would make a comment though that unfortunately there's a lot of people that are like me that need to be an appliance operator, that we're not computer savvy. So if you're computer savvy and you can get these things, you can get in a lot cheaper. Unfortunately, if you're going to be an appliance operator, you need.
Well, exactly.
For anyone interested, we will help you.
You need to start pulling out some of this kind of green stuff.
Oh, I was going to say the flat plastic, right?
HiDes does have a plug-and-play dongle that does the 1200. I think it should do at least the 23 centimeter, if not all the way up to 2.4. They've got some dongles.
Yeah, well, there are quite a few options, and I guess if you work with Rod and Roland and Mike there, I'm sure if you're interested, they can point you in the right directions.
We certainly can, and we definitely love to help you out, because you know what they say, all roads lead to Rome. Well, all roads lead to ATV. There's all different ways to get into ATV.
And Jim, do you have one of your 70 centimeter amplifiers you can show? Because that works on analog and digital. You could use it for either mode, and that's what you'll need to access the repeater. Jim makes some really nice amplifiers with multiple 3 different power levels, and cooling fan, everything's all built in.
As a matter of fact, I am using Jim's amplifier, which is the 70-9B, if I remember right. And that's the 3-watt version that he has there, which is a beautiful unit. He does a terrific job on laying them out and board, the board layout, and of course the construction of it is very, very solid. I just love his equipment.
Keep in mind the power level is it sounds like a low power level, but digital is a lot more sensitive. So you don't need as much power to get very good P5 pictures.
The other thing too is you have what's called a Crest Factor. So digital is measured in average power. So say a 3-watt average amplifier, your peak power is up around 20 watts.
Yep, this will put out 20 watts if you run FM through it.
Yeah, and Levi, I'd be glad to work with you offline on getting some good answers of what you could order to get on the air. It can be a very complicated subject, but we can boil it down to something simple.
And my recommendations for you guys who are more of a plug and play, Jim has all the RF equipment, whether you need a preamplifier, a down converter, an amplifier, whether you need it for analog or digital, he has that. So for the RF end of it, Jim's got good equipment and he packs his equipment quite well. And then, like I said, HiDes has the digital equipment. As far as analog, little cable, why the repeater's still analog, a little cable TV modulator, which Jim could probably recommend the different ones that are out there that would drive his amplifiers, and while we're in analog. So that's one way to go.
Levi,
anyway,
a follow-up question?
I'm sure you said this, but I'm just going to make a note. If you'll tell me again what the 1200 output is of your repeater, what the exact frequency is in Santa Barbara.
It's 1289.25 megahertz video carrier, and that's analog.
That's analog.
Oh, yeah, when we go, it's a 6 megahertz bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
When we go digital, we use the frequency that's the center frequency of the band. So I think it's like
that'd be 1291. You'd be 1291 when you go digital.
Okay, but right now, Santa Barbara only has an analog output, not a digital output, right?
Yes, but the amplifier is digital ready, and I have an exciter for it. So we could put that on digital very quickly.
Okay, interesting. Cool.
Yeah, so basically, in a sense, it's basically you're setting up two stations. You're setting up a receiving station, and then you set up a transmit station. So it's not like an all-in-one, even though that way back when, yes, there has been transceivers per se, but in-band transceivers. So we have cross-band repeaters here in Southern California. So it's requiring a separate receiving station and then a separate transmitting station. So I know that sometimes it gets a little bit confusing when you talk about amateur television with cross-band repeater systems. But in the sense, I got started by, like I said, I wanted to watch NASA Select on Mount Wilson, and I see a guy rocking in a chair, and I just said to myself, I have to find out who the heck is that, right? And luckily, our repeaters have a simplex frequency of 146.43 at Santiago Peak. Actually, most of our repeaters at 146.43 simplex. We also have a 220 repeater, and Mount Wilson has a 70 centimeter repeater as well. So we're able to talk to people. And also, I definitely invite you to be on DMR radio on our talk group, which is ATV Talk 9410. And you'll be able to talk to ATVers from around the world. And I get people discovering ATV Talk. I hear them on the radio, and I invite them onto invite them onto amateur television via Whereby, and they get very interested. They build repeaters. Got a repeater down in Florida. We got a repeater up in Delaware, several in Dayton, and they're ATN chapters. And it's just very, very exciting about that.
Is that a Brandmeister talk group?
Yes.
Talk group is, yes, it's an ATV talk group. And it's known as ATV Talk 9410.
They let you keep your low number?
Well, it's on the Brandmeister network, and I just happen to be very lucky.
Jim's showing his, I believe it's his amplifier there.
No, that's actually the 23 centimeter down converter.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah. No, I see it.
Oh, it's got a phase lock loop, frequency synthesizer for the LO, a 0.9 dB noise figure preamp and mixer and so forth. So.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, everything was pretty much analog, and then we started getting into digital. And there was a learning curve about 5 years ago, some rocky roads, some things that we did that we undid, and now things are quite mature, and we, know what equipment works. We've got digital equipment on the air that works very well. Almost all of our repeaters have digital inputs on 434, 2 megahertz wide. We're still and that's 720p, okay? And we're still experimenting on the 1080 side, but we'll have several repeaters on 1080p in and out probably this year, and Santa Barbara could be one of them.
And of course, I invite you to go to our website as well. You can always contact any one of us. We're good in the members contacts area, and we're listed by different chapters. And so you're more than welcome to contact one of us, because we love sharing this mode of operation. It's kind of a very unique, exotic, and it's a family. Especially in ATV, you get to know everybody from around the world, and they're just so helpful. We actually donate equipment for those that really want us to try it without you guys investing in it. And then when you guys are interested, then if you're ready to invest in some equipment, that's the best way to do it. We have a gentleman over in Orange County here in Southern California that just got started in Ladera Ranch. He's only about 8 miles from the repeater site, if that. And And we just donated some equipment for him so he can start receiving to Santiago Peak. So that's the type of people we are. We love to share. We love to give you information. We'd love to help you so you can get on the air.
Jim has a comment, and I'd love to hear some more questions coming out of Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I have a question. How active do you have an ARAS group there in Santa Barbara?
Not too active.
Not too active.
No.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that here in Boulder, Colorado, the ARAS group was not very active until about 30 years ago. And the sheriff here asked, can you guys do television for us? Bingo. That just shot the calls up. So we got called quite a few times every year and the only thing they really ever asked for was television. And okay, and we mentioned a bit about that in the video, but it was for many different activities. Forest fires were obviously number one, and that's a big deal for you guys there too. We did things with any political demonstrations that happened. We've got a university here in town, and students are always getting a little out of hand. We've actually been out with student riots, getting tear gassed. Our ARS groups got tear gassed, if you will.
That's always exciting.
Yeah. We've actually got a subgroup of 4 guys in our ARS group that are members of the Sheriff's Department SWAT team. And their function is, in fact, giving video to the SWAT commander of a SWAT operation. I actually did that I was part of the SWAT team for 18 years. I got too old and had too many heart conditions and stuff, but you know, we've had political demonstrations, big, you know, we've had a big run every year of a 10K run where we have 50,000 runners. Probably our biggest TV operation we ever had was several years ago after the bombing at the Boston Marathon. Our run here was a few weeks after the Boston Marathon. The Department of Homeland Security came in, said, we're really worried about, you know, copycats happening. Our ARS chairman sat down with all the law enforcement people planning what they were going to do. And they pointed the finger at us and they said, we want a bunch of cameras all over this race. In the football stadium where it finishes and during that race, we ended up putting up 8 simultaneous pictures for the police commanders and their command post from cameras scattered everywhere. We had all 4 channels in the 70 centimeter band lit up. Channel 57, 58, 59, and 60 with pictures. And we had those same channels being used elsewhere in town. We had microwave links sending pictures off to the Emergency Operations Center. So I guess if you want your ARS group to suddenly be useful, you need to think about television, because that's pretty much the only thing they ever asked for here in Boulder County. Okay.
Ken had a question here. He's stuck his hand up a few times. Ken, do you want to?
Yeah, let's focus on questions, please.
So my question, I'm intrigued by the fact that you can you can pull the 400 megahertz signals off the air with just a cable ready TV and an antenna. So there are two questions I have like three questions regarding that. And one is, is it just total coincidence that they're using that same frequency on the cable ready TVs? And number two, the 433.25 versus .24, how much does that munge the signal, and why haven't the hams just moved up to 433.25 or whatever the TV signal is? And then the third and final question on that same regard is, any reason why more repeaters aren't using that as their output?
I can answer that question.
You got it. Go for it, Mike.
Okay, as far as 434, just a very brief history. ATV throughout the United States after World War II was 439.25, which is cable channel 60. In Southern California, because of the 440 to 450 band filling up with voice repeaters starting in the 60s for the most part, we had to move down to 435. Then came the Oscar satellite, and that was on 435 in their sub, most of their stuff 435 to 436 back then. So we did experiments, and they flew Oscar 6 in an aircraft at 19,000 feet around Southern California before it was launched. So we tried some experiments on 434 because our video carrier was going right through. When they did the test flights on 435, we were lighting up the satellite at 19,000 feet in the aircraft. 434, they couldn't tell we were there because the video sidebands, by the time you get to 435, were quite weak. And such a fast rate, the narrowband transponder on it wouldn't even respond to it. So that's how we came on 434. As far as 433.25, you got to remember the vestigial sideband, you remove about 2/3 of the lower sideband, which means if we were on 433.25, our channel would start at 432. Well, I'm sure the EME boys and the weak signal folks would not appreciate having an ATV signal sidebands when they're trying to listen to weak signal, especially moon mounts and weak signal on 432. That's why we are not on 433.25 and on 434. Jumping up to the digital era, the reason we're on 2 megs bandwidth instead of 6, like we are in analog, because in the case of analog, our oral carriers on 438.5 outside the Oscar band or the satellite band. The video carrier is below it. The side bands that fall across it are, like I mentioned before, unless you got a guy listening at 435, literally within 3 or 4 houses away, he can't even tell you're there. So that's worked out for decades. That's worked for us. But with the digital, your maximum power is all the way across the bandpass. So you're about 150 kilohertz less than 2 megahertz bandwidth for what's called a 2 megahertz wide bandwidth when you select it on Dvdt. So that puts us between 433 and 435, so that we stay out of the weak signal window and stay out of the satellite window. Because again, we want to be good hams. We don't want to be stepping on other services in the 70 centimeter band.
The reason you can receive 433.25 is most of the TV receivers have an automatic frequency control capability, and they can shift.
Yeah, they'll pull the LO a little bit. Somebody else asked about why the TV sets picked up the cable band. Well, if you look on on broadcast, you essentially have 54 megahertz up to 88 megahertz for low band, and you have 174 to 216 for VHF high band, and then your UHF starts at 470, and it used to go up all the way to 870, but now it stops just below 600 megahertz. But the cable channels, they have a lot more channels than the broadcast channels. And since the signal's confined in the cable TV starts down at channel 2, and that's the same frequencies as the broadcast, but then those areas generally they don't put them on the FM broadcast frequencies just because they don't want interference to people listening to FM because of cable leakage and stuff. But They have, if you're not, in fact, if you transmit on 2 meters, like in my area, it takes out the Disney channel because they're transmitting within the 2 meter hand band. On my cable system, where I'm at in Crestline. And so they're on all the frequencies, including the military frequencies, land mobile, 70 centimeter, and they transmit all the way up. And some of the TVs will go as high as 1 gigahertz. That's the cutoff. And so some of the TV sets will actually pick up the 900 megahertz hand band on channel 144 and 145, I believe, are the 2 channels that are there. So that's why some of the channels landed in the hand band, not because they had any wishes to make it a cheap hand receiver. It just happens they needed spectrum. So since they're not radiating over the air, they can use the whole spectrum. Hopefully that answers your question.
Ken, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, more questions? More questions, please?
Rod?
Yes.
W6GFE. Just a quick question on a receiving antenna for 1289.
Yes.
What kind of gain does that have to present to the dongle or box or whatever to have any success?
Okay, good question. The typical 1200 receive antenna that we use is 23 element loop Yagi. It's about 6 feet long. And in general, that'll be all you need to receive this anywhere around Santa Barbara. The reception area is basically from Oxnard through Goleta with some holes down in the Ventura area because of mountains. So that antenna will work fine. You might find that if you have an SDR or something that's a little bit numb on the front end, you may have to put a preamp in there to boost the signal.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
presentation.
How about when you're doing simplex? Can you use omnis, or do you guys use Yagis for everything with the ATV basically?
Go ahead, Mike.
Rob. What's interesting about the digital, you don't need as much signal. I can take 200 or 300 milliwatts on 434 on my Omni at home and hit the repeater. But yes, you can run Omnis, but the reason the guys like to use the Yagis is kind of twofold. One, it gives you more ERP and more receive sensitivity because of the gain compared to what you can get on an Omni. But having said that, let's say that if most of you have a tower that's high enough to get you above the tree canopy, which is pretty high in Santa Barbara, but at least above enough of it, good low loss speed line, and you had an Omni antenna, it's quite possible to shoot Omni to Omni 10 or 15 miles. You're most likely going to find that folks living in the city of Goleta, since you kind of got a roughly a flat plateau out there, could probably go Omni to Omni in most areas of the city and out by the university. However, stations on the other end of town down towards Carpinteria, because you got some hills and buildings and trees and stuff towards downtown, you probably would not necessarily get the best picture all the way down there. Yagi HN would greatly improve that. Again, but the repeater would do even better than that because it'd be truly line of sight most likely.
And the output of your repeaters are all omnis or sectors, I assume, or?
Omnis.
Well, sort of. The receive antenna is a 8 dipole for 70 centimeters, 8 dipoles, but there are 4 going down the coast, 4 going up. So it's a peanut shaped pattern or elliptical pattern. So we have max gain to match going up and down the coast. The transmit antenna is currently Omni. I'd like to see that change. I've talked to Rod about this, about going to, there's a better antenna out there that could be side mounted to give more gain up and down the coast and have some electrical down tilt to, because that's because where the site's at, the look down angle is pretty steep. We do have some mechanical tilt on the antenna to try to help some of that, but a different transmit antenna up there, I think, in my opinion, would be even better.
Side mount would give us more cardioid pattern, which would serve the coastal area. We don't have to send a lot of signal into the mount.
Yeah, the 2441.5 FM antenna, that one is half-wave space mounted off of a reflector plate. So it has, again, sort of like a peanut shaped. It covers down the coast and up the coast, and does have some mechanical tilt to it to assist, down towards the bottom of the repeater.
One comment about Omnis, when I was in Santa Barbara, I ran mobile all the time, and I just used an Omni mobile antenna. The gain is a little bit less. Sometimes, you get the signal is a little bit snowier when you're moving, but invariably I could find a spot in many parts of town where I could just park and work into the repeater and receive it just fine.
Oh, when my vehicle's all set up for mobile ATV, and as soon as I round the corner in Ventura, where I get right out on the 101, as soon as I get on the coast, every time the road kind of swings out towards the ocean, boom, P5 picture from Santa Barbara. As soon as you kind of cut inland a little bit, as it kind of snakes, it gets a little weaker.
Yeah, that's called Rincon.
Yeah. And then once I make that last swing out into Carpinteria, for the most part, it's snow free all the way down the 101, all the way until you get up to, was it Gaviota State Beach, just before the 101 cuts into the
For solving. Bilton.
Yeah, it goes inland towards Solving there. So that's what I've noticed. If you live more inland by Highway 192, there are some significant shadows in parts of Montecito there. But over on the Goleta side, over by 192, there, and also going up to 154 part of the way up, I can get a good picture as well till you get up into the pass far enough, and then you get a cutoff. But and then you have that one hill that's right on the coast there near downtown. If you're on the ocean side of that hill, you're going to have some shadows. And then you've also got that ridge line to the east of town that's between 192 and downtown. If you're right at the base of that hill near downtown, there's a little bit of a shadow. You get out about a third of a mile away from that hill, it pops in just fine again. But like anything, there's always a little, one repeater isn't going to cover everything perfect, but it does quite well. Now, I will mention this for digital. One of the reasons why Snow Peak went digital so fast is that the two main stations at the time, we got more out there now, live in Cathedral City. One lives in the Cove with an 800-foot desert mountain in the way. In analog, he was with the same amplifier, the same everything that's there. He was getting a picture about 40% snow. So he had built a relay down there as office that was line of sight and amplified up to like 15 milliwatts into a Yagi named up the Cove and cross-polarized it. Now that we went DVB-T, that's all shut down. We don't need it anymore. He gets a P5 picture in the Cove. His son lives in the other end of Cathedral City, and there's a ridge line 1,000 feet lower than the repeater, but it shadows right where he's at. And in analog, he was at the point where color would just barely lock in. He gets a P5 picture. So you, in areas that in analog might be, 20, 30, 40% snow, we get snow free. Now, if you're in an area that was getting 80% snow, the digital is probably not good. You probably won't even detect the digital. Usually it's about the point where you get about 50%, 60% snow. Usually anything less snow than that, the digital is going to work really nice. More snow than that, then it won't unless you put a bigger antenna up. So if that helps.
Questions? Do we have more questions? Please.
That's probably a good time, Rod. This is about the longest meeting I think we've had in a year.
Yeah.
I might add, I might add that I'm sharing it here in Boulder. Your meeting is going live over our repeater all evening.
Oh, good. Well, I want to thank you guys, Rod and Roland and Mike and Jim, for dedicating your evening here. And
You're
sunny
very
Santa
welcome.
Barbara.
And like I said, I invite you guys to, just mark your calendars for Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. And I definitely invite you to join us and just have a lot of fun. Like I said, I mean, I love Ken's background right there where it says ham radio, the original social network. And that's what ATV is, because ATV is the original social network.
I put it up for you, Roland, when you made that comment.
Really? You are awesome.
You're like the original FaceTime.
That's right. The original FaceTime. So we're all energized, as you can see. And
well, and it's pretty late where Jim's at. So are there any more questions, guys? Because I got to get back to work, and Jim's probably going to want to.
We really appreciate your time, and I see. Oh, Daryl's back awake here. I thought we'd lost him there, but guys are slowly migrating away from from their computers.
I'll make you guys a deal. If somebody really wants to get an ATV station going and needs some help, I'll drive the 2.5 hours up there to give you a hand. And it doesn't get any better than that. And I'll bring test equipment and stuff too.
You might just bring people too. So you never know. So
it might cost you a lunch or a dinner, but I'll make the drive if somebody.
Once I think once we get more people vaccinated, and we can start doing things together. And right now, I'm kind of keeping it try to keep as few people in the club station as possible at any given time. But there's a lot of us that are, either have our 2 shots, or we're waiting for the second one to take effect, or I get my second one next week. And so here in the, when we start getting into middle spring, we're going to have more people that are going to be able to be active and doing things.
Yeah. Possible focal point is that I always come back on Memorial Day weekend. I do weed abatement up at the K-Tide site, and we do spring cleaning on our equipment, and so I'll definitely be there then.
I see your name in the logbook every Memorial Day weekend.
Yep. And I get down to the club station as often as I can, but I realize 2020 is a quiet time down there. WB9KMO@gmail.com. I'll be glad to work one-on-one with anybody that has questions or wants to put something on the air.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to mention, from my understanding, from what I heard from Rod, is that some of your antenna cables for the ATV are laying on the ground. If you need somebody to come out and dig the trench and throw some conduit in so we can get the cables underground, and so there's not a trip hazard, anything like that, I'll come out and be glad to do that. I know the dirt's pretty tough, but I got a good pickaxe.
It's it's real rocky.
Yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with your area there.
Yeah, it's right next to well, it's all alluvial deposits there, because it's right next to a historical creek. So it's all right. I grew up in Montecito, and the whole place was like that. I've had most of my youth was spent digging rocks out of the garden so my parents could plant stuff. So
well, I can relate to that because I had family. My grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins all lived in Montecito off of San Leandro Lane. So
okay. I walked on San Leandro Lane to the bus stop every morning.
You got it. And of course, my favorite place to stay when I was a kid was the Miramar Hotel.
Yeah.
I was there in the summer of between 4th and 5th grade. I loved it. But
yeah,
I hear they tore most of it down.
I live out here in the Rocky Mountains in Boulder County in the city of Boulder, and there's a good reason for them calling them Rocky and Boulder.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for coming tonight, and thank you guys again. And we'll keep in touch here. I I wrote down a bunch of your stuff. And Rod, if you think about it, send me if you could send me a little thing with all these links and things, I'll post a follow-up on the website.
I already sent something, and I had a
did you?
really nice picture of the station up there. We have 3 really nice 7-foot racks in air-conditioned comfort at K-Tide. I want to make a comment too that K-Tide has been a fabulous host for us since about 1980, and I can't give them enough credit for allowing us to stay there and being such great hosts for all that time.
Good. That's great. Okay, I'll look for that. Yeah, I'll put a follow-up to this, and because we'll post a link to the YouTube video, and then I'll put a follow-up for the, with the links that people can look at. And
I'll make sure that you get that, and I'll also create a custom flyer for Santa Barbara that will be an easy read for all of that stuff. So I'll probably get that to you within the next week.
Okay, sounds good.
And then Jim puts out a really nice ATV newsletter too, by the way, guys. Has a lot of good information in it.
If there's somebody that wants to, receive more information on it, Jim's newsletter is fabulous.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much. And I want to say hello to all of my friends out there. It's been really nice to see you guys again. And I love to come back. Hopefully I won't. Usually when I come back, I work too hard and I don't get to socialize. I'm going to try to make some time for socializing more this time. Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Thanks.
Nice to meet you, Jim. I haven't seen you in a while.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll do it all again next month.
W6MAF.
Yeah, mahalo.
Even my buddy, Frankie the fish.
Oh, you got to see his fish. Hey, put Mark and let him show you that fish.
Good night.
There he is. Oh, he went away.
Roland could probably tell him to put the fish on. Oh, here we go.
Frankie the fish.
By the way, one of the things that we do on our nets is theme night, and that's a lot of fun. Lots of different things, from showing your pets to showing your favorite hat.
I gotta go, guys.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
See
you,
you, Mike. So we have a lot of fun out there. It's not just checking in and checking out. But hope to get some of you guys on the air.
Yeah, we had St. Patrick's Day theme last month, wear your green last week. And of course, we'll do some other things like an 80s theme where I actually dressed up like Max Headroom with the old, Max Headroom background. So we do a lot of crazy things on ETV, and it's actually just a hoot. It's a lot of fun.
And Gordon West is a regular on our ATV nets, and he's always a scream. So.
And also, we will be on Ham Nation April 14th. So I invite you all to watch us on Ham Nation. They're going to expose us, as they say, amateur television.
And don't forget about Last Man Standing, March 24th through March 30th. We are the official video station for that ham radio event.
Yeah, due to COVID, they pretty much limited to some operators at the studio, and I'm privileged to will be receiving their ingest into our system, into our whereby system, and then we will continuously stream it on our YouTube channel, and then we're going to reserve our repeaters for people that want to transmit into the stream into the Last Man Standing. As you well know, this is their last season, season number 9. They're going to be recording their last episode on the 30th. So,
okay.
So 27th and 28th will be the big weekend where all kinds of modes, from digital to Echo Link to Fusion to D-Star and DMR, and of course, ATV will be being streamed from there, and it'll be shown on ATV. And of course, be as moderator moderating between the studio and into ATV. So we definitely encourage you and invite you to join us on our whereby system, as well as also on YouTube.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. All right, everybody have a great weekend. And
have a great weekend too. Thank you for the opportunity. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Have a good night.